It says it is.
I'm just having a quick look at the video.
Yeah, we're live.
Working? Yeah, okay. Right. You see me, right? My lighting is behind me, unfortunately. Right, welcome everybody to our Haverhill Town Council meeting, Monday, 28th of September. And usual caveats, we are live streaming, so please keep it nice, as it were. Apologies for absence, item 1.
We have apologies from Councillor Paula Fox and Councillor Laura Miller-Jones.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest and requests for dispensations.
None received.
I can't see anybody raising their hands. Minutes of the meeting held on the 28th of July.
Do you want those on screen?
Can do it if you can do them quick, easy, Colin. Assume you've all read them. I know there's been a correction. While Colin's working on that, can I? Oh, sorry, no. Can I have a proposer? Sorry, can you speak because I can't necessarily see.
Sorry, John. Yeah, I'm happy to propose, Mr. Mayor. Sorry,
any seconder? Thank you, David. Any seconder? Speak now, please.
Hi, John. It's Joe here. I'm willing to second.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Thank you. So obviously the pictures are going the right.
Councillor Marks is just arriving.
Lovely. Thank you. We might have to. I can't see everyone, Colin, at the moment. Hang on a sec. Bear with. Let me do that. It's all right. You can separate it out. That's better. Right. So we have a proposal seconder for the minutes. Can I have a show of hands then, please? All those in favour? Margaret, all I can see is a very bright light. Sorry. Lovely, but I think we've got the vote. That's fine. Okay. Right. To note progress of action items from those minutes. Portable CCTV. Sorry, you're coming back up.
Do you want to go off, John? Because it's got my name against it.
Yes, so I'm just dragging the window of all the people out of the way. My side. Yes, please, David.
Yeah, it was one of those things. It seems that because we were quoting why the cost for West Suffolk were quoting one cost and Ipswich were another, and I was told that that was what it costs and that was the fee, but it wasn't necessarily anything out of the ordinary to charge that sort of money. But I didn't really get anywhere further than that. But obviously the police have funded that themselves. And I think if we need to look at that and they come back to us and say they haven't got the money, then perhaps we can look at it through locality or some other method. But it was not the best of answers.
No, and I agree totally. I mean, the equipment's already there, and they have installed it, and the police have got it for 3 months. Was there anything further from you, Colin, at all?
No, I got a similar explanation of the breakdown of costs through gritted teeth from the chief executive. I think that he was quite clear about this is how much it cost.
Yeah, from what I can understand, and speaking to the inspector, is they demanded that the equipment had to be monitored by West Suffolk rather than being a reaction to events that might have happened, which that's one of the reasons it bumped up the price. So they had to have equipment that connected to their Wi-Fi and everything instead of just putting some very simple, cheap covert cameras up there. Anyway.
But that monitoring does work really well for our other cameras, of course.
Oh, definitely, especially the high street. Absolutely wonderful. Okay. Just drag that out of the way again. Sorry. Item 100B.
That was distributed just after the meeting.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Okay. So I've got a page number also. That was page 94. Page 95, 101. About the CAMs, which.
Well, I sent the letter, but I haven't actually had a response.
No, not surprising, I don't think. But they are. I sent something out earlier today, which everyone should have got about. Well, basically about the CAMs and their plans for put a park and ride near 4 Wentways.
Yeah, got that.
And then, and that was page 94. Scrolling down, 95, 102. Although the agenda says 202, but 102.
Yeah, both letters of thanks were received very gratefully. Great surprise. Chris was very touched to receive a letter from the town council.
And that was page 95. I don't think Karen's down, Colin. I don't think there's anything else.
There are no other action points after that, unless anyone's got any questions.
Okay. I assume nobody's got any other queries on any of that. Can't see any hands raised. Thank you very much. Item number 5, COVID-19. You've got the report that Colin sent out Friday night, I think it was. So, any comments on any of it?
Do you want that up on screen?
Yeah, go on, Colin, if you've got it available, please. So you're off next week. No, week after, no.
Yeah. Well, next week. Yeah.
Next week. No, sorry, it's Monday already. Sorry, next week. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, hang on a sec. Let me get the pictures back. Was that Tony I just saw?
Yeah, just a quick one. All it was, after reading everyone's reports, which are very comprehensive, etc. I just personally would like to propose a vote of thanks to all the council's officers and staff for all the work they've been doing over the last 6 months or so. It's been great to see, really. A situation that came out from left field, and everyone sort of stepped up to the plate and done their stuff. So I personally would just like to propose a vote of thanks from us councillors to the staff, just to say thank you for what they've done over the last few months. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way.
I'll second that.
David Smith seconded that. Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah.
I presume nobody's going to speak against it. Okay, can I just have a show of hands then, please? Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillors.
Okay, so let me just take those pictures out of the way. Obviously, with the new government, think about starting 1st of November, that's going to be interesting, that one.
Yes, yeah. I'm not convinced that the new government scheme is going to be particularly useful to us, to be perfectly honest, as the criteria and the impact of it don't quite work for what councillors have previously said. As far as our staff are concerned, I don't think it's necessarily the intention either that the government people to rearrange their staffing in order to make the most of their schemes. I think in this particular case, we'll need to run what we do the best we can. And if that means any employee happens to fall into the criteria for the new job retention scheme, then we'll be able to make a claim. But I'm not actually anticipating too many staff would fall into the categories. They're fairly narrow.
Keep moving the video back in time, sorry.
Do you want to go into the arts manager's report?
Yeah, go on, please. Yeah. I mean, obviously, a lot of this.
Nick is actually
Sorry.
present if anyone wants to talk to him.
Yeah, a lot of this, obviously, we discussed at the Leisure Councillor David Smith.
The announcements last week about more restrictions, is that going to affect the plans for possibly reopening the Arts Centre at all?
Nick. So you're muted, Nick.
No, it should affect that. The way we can handle our booking system is obviously we can limit it to the rule of 6, so that no more than 6 people can book in any one party, and that will apply to any of the events that we do. Really, there are a number, an increasing number of theatres and venues now looking to reopen, and there's quite a good number of models of information and ways of working that we can adapt, which are already existing on the internet. So we can work with them, and so as long as we look at the guidelines are there to enable us to do things safely, and if we look at it that way, then I'm pretty very confident that we can run our events safely and within the government structures. The 10 p.m. curfew does not apply to events. Most theatres are looking at events finishing around then, but it applies to the serving of alcohol. It doesn't actually apply to entertainment in itself, and that has been confirmed. So the answer is no, it shouldn't affect what we do.
Our bar is generally closed by about 10 o'clock anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. There's not many events that we have there where it goes on past that, and the type of event that used to happen, we wouldn't be able to stage anyway. But we haven't got enough space left for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason.
Just a quick question, Nick, regarding remembrance. I know it came up at the Leisure and Communities meeting, but I can't remember whether it was discussed whether town councillors would be invited along there. I mean, as representatives of the community, we weren't involved in the memorial for the 75th anniversary. It just doesn't specifically say. What it says, representatives of groups, but where do town councillors fall within those plans, please?
I can update members on remembrance. We actually had a meeting today about that, and there will be a limited number of spaces available for us to have at the War Memorial itself. Alan Yates, who is the parade master, has calculated the number of spaces that we can have, and the plan will be to invite the groups who lay wreaths there, veterans who may wish to attend a civic party, and we would have to look then at the number of spaces that we have left, because it will be a limited number. It will be streamed live, and there will be chances for individual members of the public and community reps to show their respects at another time. But as part of the service, there will have to be restrictions on the numbers of people that can be invited to that event.
Matt, Joe?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's an answer. I'd be interested in, I mean, I'm assuming then we'll get that information as to whether, a representative from each group from the town council, or a number from the town council. As I say, it would just be nice to know, but I would imagine that you haven't got those numbers yet.
We're going to have to wait until we know the exact number of people attending from groups, and when we're inviting youth groups, they won't be able to attend by themselves, so they might have to have an adult rep with them. We know that last time there was something, there were 30 plus wreaths laid. Some were laid by individuals and afterwards, but as part of the service, there were about 30 wreaths laid as part of that. We estimate that the maximum number that we could have around the war memorial will be approaching 50 people. So apologies to councillors, but we will have to look at the sums to see how many could be part of a town council representative group.
Okay.
I can just update on a question about the arts centre at the back. At the leisure meeting, there was a question about whether if we put up any structure at the back of the arts centre to enable outside toilets to be put there, whether that would be subject to planning. I've been helped by Christine Leveson with this, who is the conservation officer. It's been difficult to get through to planning, but planning have confirmed today that they would they would allow something of a temporary nature at the back of the arts centre in order that we can get back into business. It would not be subject to planning if we wanted to put something along the lines. We submitted 2 possible options, and they wouldn't need planning permission for those to be there if they were there on a temporary basis. The siting of a loo block out the back would not require planning permission because it is portable.
Councillor Brown?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Just going back to remembrance, what we're hoping to do as well is hoping to have 2 minutes community silence so people can actually come out onto their doorsteps and observe the 2 minutes silence. Hopefully either we're going to have a large maroon or something like that to sound a big bang to start it, or something like that. And also the Royal British Legion are doing their normal 11 o'clock on the 11th, 2 minutes silence in the high street, standing in the same place as they normally do. Obviously, that isn't going to be an organised event, and it's just going to be people that are in the vicinity, standing still for 2 minutes. So there's some other things that are hopefully going to happen as well. Yeah, cheers.
Councillor David Roach.
Thank you, Chair. Just for Nick, really, can we just make sure if planning say that we've got it in writing, because it depends which officer you get on which day, which bit of advice you sometimes get. So can we just make sure we've got it in writing so that we cover ourselves?
I'll confirm that has been in writing today from planning. That was in an email from planning.
Brilliant. That's all I want to know. Thanks, Nick. That covers us off.
Okay, was there anything else on Nick's side of things? I can't see anybody. Did you want to go back to the screen, Colin?
Is it not on the screen?
No. Sorry, I meant scroll down. Sorry.
Okay.
Karen's side of things, any questions? She's done a detailed report as usual. Seems like she's getting back into swing of things, if that's the right word to use or term to use. Can't see anybody. Okay, so we'll scroll down a bit further, Colin. Next section, as it were. I know they went back into the zone, but have they come back out again, Colin?
Well, they're not required to come back out again. They are allowed to work from there if they have reason to. But I have reminded all staff that they should only go to the office because they actually need to be in the office to do their work and not just go on autopilot.
All right. Next section, please. Okay, the zone and Sandra's youth work. Any comments on that section at all from anyone? Pat, have you had your hand up?
Yes, Chair.
Sorry, I didn't see it. It's hidden behind the chat box.
Yeah, I have a problem. I'm muting myself. It's just on the remembrance on the 11th one. I'm just a bit worried that there's quite a big crowd there, whether there was social distance or not. I just wondered if there could be advisory that people should all wear their masks at that particular event. Then, you know, we'd be a little bit more protected from standing too close to each other. Thank you, Chair.
Well, we're not planning to advertise it at all, Pat.
Right.
People are just going to turn up, spend a couple of minutes, you know, and finish.
Yeah, but when
don't forget the road is shut as well now.
Yeah, that's true. I
understand what you're saying. Yeah, I think we just have to see what it looks like.
Yeah, a bit worried, that's all.
Yeah.
Councillor Mason has his hand up.
Yeah, sorry, the chat box keeps going in front of the screen. Sorry. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chair. I just wonder whether there's any merit in looking forward to June, July, August next year. This has been a very strange year for the current Year 11 students, no matter what school you're going to. And I just wonder whether there should be, or we could start looking in preparation. A number of students' learning has been disrupted, and we may see a greater demand for things like apprenticeships. I just wonder if there's any merit into looking forward as to, you know, could the current situation impact on the demand for apprenticeships, and whether there could possibly be a drive of some sorts for getting more business involvement.
Did you want to go down to Karen Chappell's report?
You're already on it, wouldn't you? Oh no, back up to Karen's.
We will have to think about how we fund Karen and Dan's work in 2021. I'm hoping there'll be some underspend in this financial year as the external funding for her project finishes.
I mean, Karen does, from my own point of view, Karen does a lot of work with local businesses trying to get apprenticeships. And that, like, you know, obviously not going on to university or further education. But a lot of businesses, particularly now, can't afford it. So I had Councillor Brown and then Councillor Liz Smith after that.
Yeah, as you've gone back to Karen Chappell's report, just wondered, with the effects of COVID, and it's obviously the youngsters in the town that have been affected, etc., but there's going to be an awful lot of adults that are going to be looking for work, etc., and under a huge amount of pressure. I just wondered if we could broaden the scope of or think about broadening the scope of what Karen does to possibly help you know, adults as well. I don't know.
We're funding it, then to a certain extent councillors can describe the remit, because we're not dependent on external funder.
Councillor Liz Smith.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether we could take that point that Joe just made to the education task group with One Haverhill, Pat and myself, and Colin, you're on that as well. So perhaps that's something we could raise with them when we have our next meeting, although we haven't been having meetings since lockdown, so I don't know what's happening with that with regards to that particular task group. But it is something we could look at as part of that, I would imagine.
Idea. Who chairs that, Colin?
David Ruddy chairs that. He working for the college, and of course, in terms of the pressure the college was under to work out how to accommodate all the people and expand capacity more locally. He actually would, from his boss, was told he had to focus purely on college work. So he did advise the One Haverhill Partnership that he wasn't going to be able to chair any meetings of the education task group just while that was going on. But to be honest, quite a lot of the other people on it were also in a similar situation. So I don't know whether things are much clearer now for him or not. But we can certainly take on board what's just been said. I think it's important.
It's a shame not to have a meeting just because, you know, one or two people are not there. All right. Okay. Is there anything else, going back to Karen's side of things, and anything else on that before we move back to the zone and Sandra's group? Can't see anything. Do you want to go back down to the zone? Can't inform me things. Are we still looking at reopening?
We are, although, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, if we had a crystal ball, it'd be great, but clearly there is a very high risk that the government might decide to do just a complete circuit breaker lockdown, extend half term over a few weeks and tell everyone to stay at home if it becomes necessary. But we don't know that's going to happen. I think all we can do is plan to be open the week before half term to have a practice run, and then hopefully if we're able to open, we'll open. But we do accept that we could find ourselves shut down very easily.
I mean, look at what's happening up in Newcastle and everything. You know, forget the rule of 6 in pubs now as well. It's not even allowed to go into a pub unless you're actually of the same family. That was announced today, wasn't it? I'll talk to you about the canopy separately outside the meeting, Colin. Not as good as you think it might be. Anybody else got any? Looking at that report from Sandra, can't see anybody putting their hands up. Move down to Sarah's one then, please, Colin. And unless anyone's got any comments on that, I think Gary's next, isn't it?
Move down to Gary.
Yeah, unless anyone's got anything on Sarah's side of things, marketing. I have asked Sarah as part of the, I don't know what it's called, Nick, the arts thing we were talking about going into a high street. You know, we've got a nice digital display outside. Let's put some stuff on it. We've only got one display out at the moment, not moving. So she's supposed to be working on that for me. Anything on Gary's side of things, our operations manager? Nothing I can see there. Bevan House. You've got it as well. That's on the committee meetings. I guess we can talk about that later on.
Yeah, planning matter.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's the end of it, isn't it?
Chair, just as a slight aside, Councillor Brown mentioned the idea of using a maroon to start the 2-minute silence. The Royal British Legion down in Exmouth tried that one year, and it set off every car alarm and dog in the whole town. The one thing there wasn't was 2 minutes of silence. So we may want to find something more subtle than a maroon going off.
Sorry, Councillor Mason, a maroon, a rocket.
It's
You know,
not,
like you have at sea if someone's in distress.
yeah. It sounds like there's been an airburst explosion over the town.
And we're not talking, as I said earlier on to someone else, it's not a £3.50 Paynes rocket.
No.
It's rather larger than that. It's like a mortar bomb,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So they only did it once.
Yeah. Anybody else on that report? No. Okay, so should we move on to agenda item 5 Bravo? Anything? Now this, it was suggested, and I don't know what people think, and I'm going to ask Councillor Lucarini if he wants to introduce this one, about writing to Matt specifically about direct support for local arts venues.
Well, I suggested this before the new job support scheme come out. So I'm now unsure whether there's a need or not.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think it was just to try and just put on the table, as it were, that, you know, things like obviously our own arts centre and other small arts centres are suffering badly, and it's not just about jobs; it's about artists not being able to perform and all this sort of stuff. I didn't know. The idea was just to write an informal letter to Matt, not anything else, but just to write a letter to him. I don't know what other people think at all. Anyone got a thought? Can't see anybody saying anything. Did you still want to carry this forward, Aaron?
My original reasoning was that with the furlough scheme ending, I was worried for places like our own arts centre and the arts industry as a whole that these jobs would be lost. And it's not a dying industry; it's just a temporarily restricted industry. But with the new job support scheme, hopefully there's a way forward for the arts industry now.
You got any thoughts, Nick? You're muted, by the way.
There's some quite high-profile shows of support for the arts with the buildings going red, and some quite high-profile directors and celebrities getting involved in it. In terms of appealing to Mr. Hancock for something in his own community, it might be worth seeing how supportive he is of that. I find it difficult to know how we will budget for next year, not knowing what level of service we can actually provide and what we will actually be next year. I think it's a really difficult thing to do. Sorry, hard for me to say, but
Okay, that's fine.
any support that we can get for the arts and the arts centre would be great. If he can come back saying he would see what he can do, that would be grand.
Well, I'd be quite happy to support something. You know, it doesn't have to be, it's not an anti-government thing or anything. It's just saying, well, look, we got an arts centre here in Haverhill and the Apex in Bury and other things that I know it's not in his constituency, but and it's a constituency thing, not a government thing. Councillor Marks.
Yes, I think, don't forget, we're in a very different place to the Apex. The Apex is funded by West Suffolk Council, and I think it might be worth asking the question of West Suffolk Council, just if they are giving any form of uplift to them and to the Theatre Royal, because they get substantial funding, whereas we don't get any from the district at all. So that's, you know, just before we kind of ask Matt for a global sum of money, we're much more vulnerable, in my view, than perhaps the Apex and the Theatre Royal. So I don't know if you want to kind of think about finding out what they're getting first.
Well, I personally wasn't seeing it as a money side of things. I was just thinking of support generally. You know, we're funded by the taxpayer, as the Apex is, to a certain extent, through a subsidy. Yes, I know people in Haverhill pay for the Apex out of their council tax. Councillor Liz Smith.
Yeah, I think it would be worth writing to Matt to ask him for his support for the local arts and the artists as well as the staffing. For his general support that he can sort of take to Parliament, take to his colleagues in government, not just financial support, but some principle that they will, potentially give some financial support, but they are thinking about this, you know, in their minds. So it is something that they will be looking at. So we do need to perhaps raise the questions, okay. And you know, see what he can come back with.
All right. Sorry, Colin.
I'll just make the observation that in our particular case, we're in a similar situation to the Apex in that there's not a huge threat to the venue particularly, because the venue is heavily subsidised anyway. What there is, to me, it seems to be a threat, is to the local artists who might appear on stage or might do arts type work. Those are self-employed business people who are really struggling. They were never highly paid to begin with, and there's there's lots of stuff they're just totally unable to do because their entire reason for working is to bring people together, and they're not allowed to do it. So I'm probably more concerned that we would have a venue and we would struggle to have local artists, professional artists, being able to, you know, it's the self-employed and some of the people who are set up their own limited companies and take a dividend. Some of the structures, from what I'm hearing on the news, it seems to be self-employed people and business and very small businesses, which describes artists who are particularly struggling to take. They don't have any scheme. These furlough schemes just don't work for them because they're not employees.
No, but I also think about some of the staff that we have got who have currently furloughed, who can come off, you know, in the next month, and whether or not we use the new, call it a furlough scheme, if that's what we want to call it, is we're not going to have necessarily the jobs for them in our arts centre because we're not putting on the projects as we are. Is potentially they may be left by the wayside, but some of them are very highly skilled people. And I'd be really worried. That's the sort of support I would like to see, is those sort of people. Yes, we could pay them as a council. We could just pay them their normal wages. Of course, how long do you carry on doing that for?
Yeah, but I'm not sure how the government helps with that. You're absolutely right. We can redeploy our people, and unfortunately, they may go a bit rusty on some of their skills, but we can keep them occupied. And as long as the local taxpayer is happy for us to use their funding like that, certainly I don't think they're going to be particularly enamoured at the idea of sitting at home. It's probably not good for the mental health of our staff to just sit at home either. But it's when we reopen the arts centre, it's just my concern is simply what we're going to show if the arts industry has been decimated in the meantime. I don't know whether Nick has any thoughts on that, because I know we've discussed things like opening the cinema, but actually the distributors don't want to release the films at the moment because they don't want to have rubbish audiences. So they're sitting on some of the big films, and it goes very deep, the problems that this has caused.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly be a very different type of organisation for at least the next 6 months in what we can present, either that it isn't there or there isn't an economic viability to do that. I suppose we will be able to better support local musicians, because our program may actually become more local by very dint of the fact that, you know, we don't have the same amount of seating and the same level of income to support that. But it is difficult to see. There are, you know, in putting the next program together, there have been a few artists I've spoken to who are being realistic about it, who are bringing their expectations of what they're going to earn from a gig down, because they know that you know, that's what they're going to have to do. So there is a bit of hope there, but I agree with Colin that it's difficult to, you know, some of them I've spoken to are working on farms and on delivery vans and things like that, because they have to. There is this zilch income. Some of the people who were used during the summer, that was their first gig since March. That's their first work since March. And one of the comedians went out to start his car because he hadn't used it since March, and he couldn't come because it didn't start. So, you know, there are a lot of struggling people out there.
All right. Okay. David Roach, do you want to speak?
Just, I think writing to Matt's probably not a bad thing, and just ask him to forward it to whoever the arts minister is. And just to flag up that small towns are unique in that they're not mainstream, they're not really on anybody's radar. You know, there's the West End have got a big shout with Andrew Lloyd Webber shouting about this corner, but for small towns where it's just the real starting end of the industry, I think it's just worth flagging it up that, you know, it is a concern, because, you know, the little people feed and become big people. But if you kill that off, then I think it's just worth flagging up. I don't think there's much that they can do, but I think it's worth us at least having our voice.
Right. So, Councillor Lucrini, do you want to propose something? You're muted. You there, Aaron?
Looks like he's frozen.
Yeah, I don't know. Are you there, Aaron?
He's dropped off, John. He's gone.
No, he's there.
Is he?
Still there. Gone off picture. Well, we won't wait. I'm going to propose we do write to Matt Hancock then, in that case, on a, you know, as you say, David Roach, you know, pass it to the Arts Council or whoever it is, you know, Arts Minister. Councillor listening.
Second that.
You second that, lovely. Thank you very much, Mr. Cheers. Can I just have a show of hands then, please? Okay, that's lovely. Thank you very much. I don't know. Oh, Aaron, I just saw a hand come up from Aaron. I think, sorry, Aaron, we keep losing you on picture. Right, item number 6, Rural Markets Town Group. Colin, do you want to do that one? You and I have spoken about this.
Yeah, I'll share the screen. This was sent round, it was quite a while ago.
Right. Okay.
There's a criteria somewhere.
Yeah, with the 30,000.
Yeah. So basically, we're at the very top end of the sort of towns. They're looking for towns with a population under 30,000. That's a service centre for the rural areas around it. They do keep badgering us to whether or not we want to join or not.
Any thoughts at all? Councillor Lucarini and then Councillor David Smith.
Yeah, I did wonder whether there's actually any point joining when we are so near to the to their limit. We know it won't be long before we go over that now.
Councillor David Smith.
Yeah, pretty much the same thought really, with the houses that are in the pipeline. Also, can you give us a clear indication what the benefits would be to us? I can understand how it benefits some of the smaller market towns.
I think it's they just want a weight of numbers. It's a stronger voice for market towns, but those market towns are, range from very, very small market towns up through to ones that are kind of 20,000 population, and then kind of creeping up towards, there's a little bit of a gap, and then there's us. They've kind of identified the towns they want to contact, and want to try and capture as many as possible. It's not particularly necessarily going to benefit us at all, other than government be aware of the issues that affect rural areas and rural areas that rely on market towns.
Yeah, I think it's more about the places surrounding us rather than our actual town. Councillor David Roach, did you put your hand up?
Yes, just quickly, is there any cost implications for joining it? Do they want a subscription or something?
Yeah, it's about £100 or so. It's
trivial amount of money in that regard.
It's how much work we may have to do as a town to benefit things around.
That's the thing. How much officer time do we have to put into it for the cost benefit, isn't it?
I think maybe if we were a town in the middle of Suffolk, it might make more sense. But we've got Cambridge and Essex there, and is there anything we can do to influence them? Probably not. That's my personal view as well. But any other thoughts? Karen.
Just wondering, is there actually another group that we should be joining? Are we a member of any groups that represent towns that have a population over 30,000? If we get there.
I'm not aware of one. I can have a cast around and see if there is such a group.
Maybe it's a start one.
Well, yeah, and charge a fee.
Yeah. There you go, Colin. Job for you, mate. Got nothing else to do. Okay, so any proposals on this? Well, anyone saying no? I'm going to propose we reject joining it. But is anyone from the second?
Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Brown. Are you? Sorry, seconding that. Sorry, just like your head. Sorry. Okay. All right, we've got a proposal and second. All those in favour of rejecting joining this group? Okay. Anyone against? Councillor Crooks. Councillor Stinchcombe, any thoughts?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay. I'm not necessarily taking the votes, but it's just nice to know who's what. That's fine. Thank you.
That's carried.
Yes, carried. Yeah. Sorry. Item 7, volunteer centre, physical space. You want to update? I think most people know what's going on anyway.
So we're looking at going to try out using the media hub in the arts centre to provide at least a physical space where they can have meetings. We don't have a shop front as such, which is unfortunate, but as it stands, we aren't able to use number 36, which is the empty unit next to Greg's. And until AXA are back in sufficient numbers at their building, we're not able to access the main AXA building to use their lobby. So the proposal is that we just use that space for a short amount of time.
Nick, did you want to say something? Did I see you put your hand up?
No, I was just saying goodbye to Dylan.
Oh, I see. Sorry. Okay. All right. Well, there's nothing really. You know, we're a bit of, unfortunately, a bit of a thing under 36 High Street. Okay. Any comments on that at all? Oh, Councillor David Smith.
So we're reliant on AXA getting back in sufficient numbers before we can use that unit. So there's no guarantees that they're ever going to come back in any numbers anyway. If they found a new way of working, like working from home, is there a plan B or C?
Well, we're on plan. I think D actually is one we're using at the moment. The difficulty we have with the AXA building is that the primary point of access is at the rear through their lobby and across the floor that they use. So we go literally through it, and then out through a secure door into the stairwell and down to the AXA lobby. If they were simply, well, obviously West Suffolk to hand us the keys would mean that we had free access to the floor where AXA have all their insurance details and all their documentations, and would be relying on us to lock and unlock access to their part of the building. I don't know, it's only a hunch, but I don't think AXA are going to agree to that, to be perfectly honest. That's the only reason why.
Yeah, and there's still the issue of the lease hasn't been negotiated either with AXA, West Suffolk. Okay, if nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that AXA might move to a different floor or a different way of working, in which case we can arrange with West Suffolk. But the accessible toilet in that massive great building is on AXA's floor. So if we have any volunteers, for instance, who are wheelchair users, then we need to be able to facilitate access to them through to the toilets. It does, although it's not their building anymore, it does require their cooperation, however we look at it.
Thank you. Right, should we move on to 7B for Bravo? I guess that's going to be you, Joe, is it? Or Colin, I presume Joe?
Expecting to be Councillor Mason.
Yeah. Is that you?
Yes, well, I mean, I wasn't anticipating talking on this, funnily enough, because it was very much Jill Moss's baby, so to speak. It was something that I've supported Jill with. It was an event where we had members of the community come out and do a litter pick in 3 different areas. One centred around the B&Q area, another starting at the Leaston working up towards Puddlebrook, and the other at Easttown Park working along the railway line. 27 bags of rubbish were collected, and I'm sure you might have seen a press release or seen maybe something on Facebook that was in the Echo. It was seen as a great success. I mean, I'm personally interested in how we can carry that message forward of looking after our community. And we were talking about having a display on the signage outside the Arts Centre. You know, bin it, don't fling it. It's about sort of whether we can run a campaign as a council to try and just continue to raise people's awareness of littering. Just as a side note, a remarkable amount of COVID masks that were collected. And I mean, I do a lot of litter picking, and of course this is a new item that I've never seen before, and there were many disposed masks in hedgerows and in bushes, and so that's one of the new features. But I'd like to thank Jill for organising it and Emily's support, and in particular Councillor Bruce Dickinson and Councillor Elaine McManus for supporting that event as well. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and it was, you know, a good bit of communal work where we were able to do a bit of good in the community. But yeah, I think it went well.
I think you might find Bruce Dickinson flies planes and sings in a band. Bruce Davidson.
Oh, Davidson, sorry. sorry, Bruce.
Okay, lovely. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. I couldn't make it that day. I was doing something else, some other work elsewhere. Right, any comments on that before we move on to item 8? Nothing. Right. Item 8 then. Police side of things. Well, we haven't had anything from Kevin recently. I attended a One Haverhill antisocial behaviour thing meeting, task group meeting the other day, but he was generally mentioning, as he did at One Haverhill board meeting, that despite what was on the West Suffolk ONS report, which obviously went up to March, the number of county lines in Haverhill has dropped dramatically, and there possibly is only one at the moment which comes and goes in Haverhill. And I sent the crime stats out as well, and obviously you had those whenever it was, beginning of the month. So anything on the police side of things?
You circulated the Constable County.
Constable's County thing, yeah.
Drawing on the front.
Oh, so before Dave got on to David Smith, the other thing I wrote down here earlier on, I'm following up on something that Councillor Roach and myself have been trying to get done for the last 3 or 4 years, which is speed watch again. They're now telling us it's actually 6 sites in Haverhill that were approved already, but I'm actually disputing that because nobody seems to know about. So Councillor David Smith and then Councillor Stinchcombe.
Just regarding some of the local events that they've been holding recently, I wonder if anybody else had any prior knowledge of them, because it seemed like there was basically a Facebook message that day saying, "Oh, we're at the Clements or we're at the Chalkston Estate today. Come and see us." Bit of prior warning would have been useful.
Well, they did send out prior warnings, and they probably about a week earlier. I remember putting stuff on Facebook about it, saying they're going to be like in Strasbourg Square or the Leyston Centre and that sort of thing. And then obviously they published their own actually on the day to say, here we are. And it's unfortunately from the timings, and I have told them about this, the times of the day and the days they were there. I mean, they did come down on a Saturday to the Leyston and Strasbourg, but the timings were not brilliant in terms of that. But they told me they did get some really useful information out of it from people locally, particularly around the Leyston. So that's something there. So yeah, it's unfortunately, the trouble is it's down to operational availability, but now Cheryl Claydon's around, we wouldn't have had these in Haverhill unless she'd have suddenly become our community engagement officer, because she was the one who organised them. And I think she's obviously worked shifts as well. So I think it's something that she understands, that we need to get the timings right and the days right. I think it's the answer. Don't do it on a Wednesday morning when people are at work. Think about the weekends. Think about where you are, like Strasbourg Square. Actually go up there when something like Chippy's is open. Don't do it in the middle of a Saturday afternoon where you probably get 2 or 3 customers an hour, that sort of thing, people passing. Councillor Stinchcombe?
Thank you, Chair. I was a bit disappointed with Constable's County that our SNT's section had a sentence included both Sudbury and Haverhill appropriately. The very next sentence, we have the town. Excuse me, which town are you referring to? Guess what? Any guesses?
To be honest with you, I scanned it because I was pretty disappointed in how it was written.
Because it's all Sudbury, isn't it? The town, in the context of 2 towns, the town means Sudbury, and I felt a bit insulted by that. I don't know who drafts that, whether it's Kevin himself or someone else on his behalf, but it's a bit insulting, I think, really.
Well, it's normally done by the community engagement officer, but of course we haven't had one since April.
Okay.
So hopefully Cheryl now will be doing that in the future. But of course, what they've done is they've now got, as they mentioned there, Darren Marshall, who some of you might remember from Haverhill anyway. He is now taken over the community engagement in the Sudbury area. He doesn't cover Haverhill now. So Cheryl covers. So I've actually asked them to stop calling it Sudbury and Haverhill. I mean, it should always be Haverhill and Sudbury anyway. Stop calling it that. Stop giving an email address, which is Sudbury and thingy, whatever it's called, Suffolk.police. Whatever it is. And I know Kevin covers both areas, but let's have them separated down into their component parts. It may take them a while to do it, but I have got, although it's probably not coming up on this, whenever it is next week, I've got the police and crime panel. I can see if I can raise it before the meeting starts. But I've constantly complained about this because the first 2 pages is pictures of the Chief Constable and Tim Passmore with a load of stuff. But the actual data you want is limited, well, in this case, to not even quarter of a page. Isn't it? Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, thanks. Did somebody else have their hand up? Sorry. No, don't think so.
Can I make an observation, Chair?
Yes, I can.
Notice that the amount of space, I think we have complained about this, the amount of space that's given to the area inspectors to write about their particular area is absolutely tiny. These massive banners with east, huge letters, south, west, etc. There is more space for that pink banner saying west than there is for the whole of Sudbury and Haverhill. If Haverhill and Sudbury, if Cheryl and Darren have got to share that tiny space, I think we could ask if we can't have that big pink bit at the top, because it's a complete waste of space. The back page is entirely blank, and they give no space whatsoever for inspectors to write anything. It's complete nonsense. Really.
I complain about this every time I see Tim or the Chief Constable. And of course, they had that previous thing, which was even worse. But they don't actually talk to the end user, the person who's going to read it. They just have somebody in the police media department doing this and thinking this is what you want. Well, of course, it's not what we want. We actually want more data, proper data. And Colin, Tony Brown.
That's it. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Chair. To be fair, I've stopped reading that. It's just a waste of my time. You can't beat what we used to have. I know we keep harking on about where we used to have someone actually come along to our council meetings. Councillors could, raise their concerns and question whoever it was that come along. 100 times better than, it insults your intelligence, that thing, to be fair.
I know. I agree totally, especially this month. A lot of times it has been about Haverhill, that little quarter section there.
Yeah.
But as you look down, just scroll down one page, Colin, can you? Where the bird's eye view thing. Is it not scrolling? Oh, it is now, yeah. All about drone pilots. It's either an SNT report or it's not. And I think it's more of a PR thing for the police rather than actually giving us information all the time.
Spot on, yeah.
And I'm not certain I don't think it's, I haven't got the papers yet. I think they're coming out the next few days for the police and crime panel. But I think the one in January, I believe, might be actually about community involvement and that sort of thing. That's the kind of thing we need to get up. Yeah. Sorry, Councillor Stinchcombe again. Sorry.
Would it help if we formally expressed our dissatisfaction?
We can do it again. We've done it before.
Well, I propose that we do.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. Seconded by Tony Brown, I assume.
Yeah,
just nod. Yeah, okay. I'm quite happy to support that again. Probably find the old letter somewhere.
Yeah.
Chair, can I just interject if that's possible?
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Mason, yeah.
If you're going to put it to a proposal, can I also possibly make an amendment to that we actually specify exactly what we do want, but it's not just
Yeah. I was hoping that's what we would do. Yes, it's this is the thing that they're supposed to replace the SMT newsletters and things. So yeah, I mean it's great to know about drones, but why not just put a single line link on it to a place on the website?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, all those in favour, please, of writing something. I have to do that. That's all that's carried, Colin. Thank you. Right, if there's nothing else on the police side of things, which I can't see any hands. County councillors, David.
Okay, well, it will come as no surprise that I've had lots of post bags and phone calls and emails regarding parking on Chalkston and the mess that's up there. So I've raised it with county about trying to modify the TRO, and you know they're slow coming back. But I've eventually had an answer back that says, and a minute, if I can just. And I'll read it and quote it. It says, although previously it may not have been a police priority to enforce these areas due to limited resources, it does not mean that it's safe to park or the restrictions are not justified. Due to the large volumes of requests for TROs to be reviewed, we are no longer able to respond on a case-by-case basis. Instead, we are now compiling a list of requests for a review to be undertaken in the future. Any amendments to TROs will also require a funding source to be identified to enable any amendments considered necessary to be actioned. And so they're talking about £6,000 per amendment. But it just causes no end of grief for our residents up there. So I'm going to keep battling on with it. If it comes to it and it means that we've got to fund it, then I've got money in my highways budget and I'm happy to do that. But it's a complete nightmare up there. And John, you know that as well as I do, that you know it just doesn't stop.
Yeah, I mean the proposed thing that we did 3 or 4 years ago, that Tony and I did, was not to actually put parking bays in there, but take away some of the double lines in Millfields Way, which doesn't cost. The parking bays cost £6,000 a head. Primarily,
no, the 6K is their fee for doing the TRO.
Oh yeah, but they'll do one change to the TRO.
Yeah,
they're not going to charge every region 6,000.
Oh no, they are.
But they might try to, but they're
yeah.
they're on thin ground there. But we were saying about getting rid of some of the double lines, which Haverhill were happy with. The then highways engineer was happy with. Of course, the trouble was the highways engineer retired and then it went into a big hole somewhere. I'm not saying get rid of all the W lines, but obviously in certain places they're needed. But that was one of the problems. Of course, the other problem, as we all know, is the number of cars per household has increased dramatically since those houses were built.
The estate was never designed for the volume of cars. The garages aren't big enough for the size of modern cars. So it's a factor that's it, and it doesn't help that it's a mixed use with people that have bought their houses, Havebury housing as well, rented. So there's a complete mix. So it just makes it difficult to get a one-stop answer. But I'll keep banging on with it and seeing where we get to. Other than that, I've never known a summer like it for meetings. It just seems to have been busier than ever because we're doing virtual meetings. So it just seems that all week I'm on a conference call for one thing or another. So I suppose it's probably a penalty of being on lots of committees and doing bits and pieces and chairing county planning and being vice of pensions. So your pension's safe with us, Colin, it's fine. We're looking after it. But yeah, it's just been busy, but I'm happy if anybody wants to raise anything or ask any questions. I see Tony's got his hand up.
Yeah, I was going to go to Tony now. I'm just getting.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. It's the old chestnut around the crossing towards East Town Park again. Sorry to keep raising it, but East Town Park during the lockdown has been hugely busy. The amount of youngsters I see crossing that road, cars still, as John will verify, speed along Couples Road. Please, can you just chase that crossing, mate?
Yeah,
appreciated.
Still trying to do it, and it's not like the money's sort of, from what I can see, the money's there. It's just trying to get them to schedule the work to do it.
I'd actually allocated the money out of my locality budget, so I can't understand why it hasn't been done. It's just ridiculous.
No, it's just trying to get them to do stuff.
Yeah. Thank you.
Highways will tell you that at the moment they're extremely busy because they're not able to do some of the things in the high street we want to do as quickly as we thought they were going to do. So.
No, that's came up. I mean, with that meeting, was it 2 weeks ago, John.
Yeah, but since then as well.
Yeah, and we've still got nowhere with that CTRO amendment, which they could put the first one in overnight, and it's 3 weeks, and it's since we asked them to change it. So, but we're keeping on the case.
Okay. Right. Any other questions on Councillor Hanlon? And Councillor Smith after that. David Smith. You're muted, Pat.
Yeah, like my the screen share is not going on my screen, and plus it's and it keeps coming up about the internet, so there is a problem. Yeah, the high street. So that means that at the moment still no one can go down there, and this is between the hours of 10 at night to 4 in the afternoon to 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
That means that only people, disabled people, and access for people have rear access. Is that still is in situ? Is it?
Officially, that is the rule, but the TRO is changing that from 4 in the afternoon till 10 the next morning, anybody will be able to drive down there.
But
yeah, but not yet. That's
not,
what I'm.
No, that's what we're waiting for the legal bit to be done.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the original TRO, Pat, was when we actually read it. It wasn't actually what we were doing, because the CTRO they put in place actually said no vehicles, period, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, was what they actually, with the words on the TRO. So we're waiting for the amended one after having that meeting, so that it will be open to everybody, except for 10s to 4.
Right, but the bad news is it's shut for the next 2 days anyway.
Because of works at
there's a gas main being there's work being done on the gas main very near Jubilee Walk, so they're going to be shutting the road tonight 24/7, probably until Wednesday night.
And a lot of these you're just taking forever. I mean, Hollands Road has been going since the start of since.
Yeah, but it's nothing. That's actually a replacement of a whole gas main. This is actually just.
And Helian's Bumstead Road is shut as well.
Yeah, I know.
But there's loads of stuff going on.
Okay, the problem being that, as Councillor Carini will explain to you as well, if you want to, is that they made the road into two-way road today. Which we have people going up towards the gas repairs and doing a U-turn across the pavement to come out the other direction. So that's why it's all going to be shut tonight, because apparently it turned out the Suffolk Highways were not told by the Cadent, the gas people, what they were planning to do. So they're up in arms about it at the moment. But I was on the phone to them most of the afternoon trying to resolve it with Aaron. Okay, let's move on to let's do something else. Sorry, Councillor David Smith, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, it's just a question to Councillor Roach, really. The highways reporting site, when you actually report something, is there a limited amount of time it stays on there before it falls off? You know, even if the work's not been done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be, David. So if you reported something, nothing's happened, report it again, just to refresh it. And if you get a problem with a particular one, then flag it up to if it's yours, if it's in your ward, it'll be one of the Foxes, because they've got that. So, or if it's in my side, and if you don't get anywhere with that, just let me know, I'll change it for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, just to clarify that, 4 years ago, I was working with Highways to actually change all that. And when I stepped down, they suddenly said, we're not going to do any work on it. And you're exactly right. They will close a report, even if it does go into their internal systems. But the idea was to give people much more information. And that still hasn't been done by Highways. It required software changes, but it was always about money all the time.
So what was the time scale then? Sorry, I don't know if you said, is it 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 weeks?
It varies, David. I don't think there's no such sort of thing. And of course, it's been made frustratingly worse, because before, almost any councillor or parish could phone up Highways and talk to them, and now they just won't. They're saying everything has to go through county councils or the reporting tool. So
I just thought it was some way, you know, you said earlier that they were very busy. I thought it was some way of them sort of cutting down their workload by just not doing things.
Well, I phoned Highways Help Desk today, and I've given their due. They were very helpful, except initially the person they got hold of the manager and said, two-way traffic in the high street, you need to get hold of the police to get them to sort it out. When I explained it, actually it was a highways problem. That's when they escalated it. But the reporting tool, you know, I've always said this many times, and it's not fit for purpose. They keep saying, oh, it wins awards, but it's not fit for purpose from an end user point of view. Is the problem. Okay, anything else on county at all? Let's move on to district quickly. District councillors, anyone want to speak? Can't see. Councillor Marks.
It's not specifically, it's just because I sit on health anyway, but I just thought everybody, I don't know if you know that the Christmas maltings and Clements practice will be changing its name. I have to say, quite a few of us are not very happy with the name they've chosen. It's Unity Healthcare, which I think is going to cause terrible confusion. And I did notify Colin today, but, you know, it's done and dusted. It's been approved now by NHS England, and they've gone with Unity Healthcare. But I just think with the schools partnership being called Unity, I think what happened is it's because it's run by the GP Fed. The GP Fed probably have made this decision without consideration for Haverhill as a place. It's also, we seem to be registered in Ipswich, so very confusing. I think they wanted to change the name because of the confusion with Christmas maltings. People get very confused with family practice and so on, and it'd be helpful. And also because we've got Steeple Bumpstead and Keddington, so it brings it all into one. But anyway, that's a fait accompli, I'm afraid. That's and that will happen on the 5th of October.
It's relief, doesn't it, really? I call it the Clements practice. It's a lot easier, anyway.
John, of course, that doesn't embrace Steeple Bumpstead.
Well, okay,
but there were other names, and I think it would have been helpful if they'd had some sort of. They didn't even have a consultation with their own PPG, so we got it, chucked at us as a fait accompli. So sorry, but anyway, just so you know.
Okay. Any other district council stuff? You saw my report, by the way. I include that as well. Nothing on there, I presume.
Just one quick thing, John. They're still bubbling on adoption of Aragon and Parr Roads. Yeah, I'm hoping to get somewhere, but I've been hoping for that for the last 5 years, and the residents been hoping for 20. But head of planning has now told me it's going to get resolved. There's just a couple of little legal bits, but I'm not going to hold my breath. And then there's a similar thing with Phoenix Road. That's not adopted either. And that's compounded because it's actually in Essex, but Suffolk were dealing with it.
Well, on the way back to Essex, I mean, there's actually two other locations in Haverhill, Cat King Close, and actually Cangle Road in front of Tesco's. It's owned by Tesco's.
Yeah.
The main A143 hasn't been resolved either. And I was doing this, 4.5 years ago, wherever it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I presume there's no members of the public, Colin. Oh, sorry, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, no, it's just a quick one, just to say that I've still been chasing the splash pad over at District, not getting anywhere fast, but say I am pursuing it and seeing what they're doing on their end. So hopefully there is stuff being done.
Yeah, no answers. I'm not getting the answers either.
No.
So, Colin, was there any public? No. Okay. Right, item 9, the Mayor's report, as brief as it was. I presume nobody's got any questions on that. Happy with that? Fine. Number 10, One Haverhill Partnership, verbal report from members and clerk. Anybody wish to comment? Oh, it was, did we live stream it to YouTube? Fine.
Sorry?
Did we live stream it to YouTube?
Well, the One Haverhill board?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I know we recorded it, but you know, we might have to think about that.
It doesn't get streamed.
No, okay, we should go on their website maybe. Okay. Anything on? Sorry, Councillor Queenie.
Just that obviously Colin sent round the Business Improvement District their business plan. I just wondered if any councillors had any comments on it at all.
Anyone? Before I have my say. Nobody's been around up. I found it very weak personally. Claiming a lot and not delivering very much. That's my personal view. Claiming a lot of things that they were not necessarily involved in as well. So I found it very weak. Spending a lot of money on things, but I couldn't really see any major benefit to the town centre area that's been defined. But that's me personally. That's Brown.
Yeah, one little thing that concerned me on there was around sort of like the metrics to see how successful they were going to be and how they was going to base that success. I mean, we're working from a baseline of COVID affected town. There's a huge uncertainty at the moment. To be fair, once COVID ends, there's going to be hopefully a bit, some sort of bounce back in the town anyway. Would that be attributed to a successful bid team? I don't know. I wish the bid all the good in the world, and hopefully there's going to be a great success. But I've just got concerns around how success would be measured and against what. I'd be interested to get to the bottom of that. Thank you.
Anything from you, Colin?
No, I think this, the bid thing was probably the main thing that came out. The board meeting was a bit of a touch base as much as anything else.
Yeah, also. Okay, no other comments on that. I can see any hands. Okay, let's move on to item 12 Alpha. Planning Committee meeting. We got 3 to adopt. 11th of August, 1st and 22nd of September. Which
Do you want those on screen?
Councillor Hanlon, are you proposing?
I propose we adopt them, Chair.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for those minutes, please? Councillor Stinchcombe? That's fine. No, I don't. I think all the councillors have had them available online as well, Colin. Happy to no comments on those. Can I have a show of hands then, please, to adopt those 3 lots of minutes en bloc? Thank you. And then we're just Bevan House. I mean, I've got some information, but you've probably got the same information, Colin.
Yeah. So we're hoping that we will finally get an approval. The planning officers prepared a list of conditions, and they've been sent to the architects for comment, and I've chased that today. So because the ball's been in the district council's court for the best part of a year, and it's bounced back into ours, so I don't want it to hang around with us any longer than necessary, to try and get a quick return to the council so that they can finally issue outline planning consent, and then it'll be down to this council to decide what next steps it wants to take.
I understand there's something like 17 conditions they've added to it.
Yeah, a lot of them, but nothing particularly terrible.
No, it just seems a hell of a lot compared to what they normally would do. But anyway, considering how long they've been sat on it, I'm assuming, and I haven't checked online, I'm assuming that we have made no changes to the designs other than what we approved initially. Yeah,
not since, I think June last year.
I could say a long time ago, yeah. Okay. Any questions on that at all at this stage? Probably can't do anything until we get that formal approval anyway. Item 12B, the tendering. That's tendering as in going out for goods, not the place. working party to move the adoption of the notes from the 3rd of August. Can I have a proposal at all? Assuming everyone's happy with it. I'll propose it to start with then. Who else was there? David Roach was there. And
Yeah, happy to second. Chair.
okay. Did you have any? Okay. All right. So we got a proposal and seconder. Can I have a show of hands then, please? I assume there's no thing. We also need to approve the switch of the electricity contract. The recommendation is to go to Ecotricity, and this was sent out to everyone, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
So
put it up on the screen.
I'm trying to remember when it was, when it was sent out.
It was sent out with the papers that went out on Friday. I can share it.
I mean, the document was there, but
It's in the minutes.
Just come
yeah,
up.
no, sorry, I was thinking about the detailed spreadsheet that was done. Sorry, that's what I was thinking of.
Well, that's what the tendering working group looked at. This is the
I did some more work.
proposal.
I did more work on it to break it down into month by month rather than just a generic figure. But it still came out roughly the same amount of money.
So in actual fact, the moving over to green electricity should actually save us money. It'll obviously, the reality is that the electricity usage for the building because of coronavirus is all over the place, and it's a bit like what Councillor Brown was saying in terms of how will the bid tell if it's actually improved matters, because clearly we won't be using £23,800 worth of electricity. We won't be using 25,600 either. But on a level playing field, when they were measured up against each other, not only was it green, but it was actually less expensive. So we'd assume that we would remain less expensive. And we did look particularly at the standing charge because we are, want to try and reduce usage. So obviously having a large standing charge would affect us, but we're confident this is the right choice.
The reason we're not, this is only for electricity, is the gas contract doesn't run out till April 2022, I believe it is. The one with Corona Energy. So hopefully when we get there, it will be a case of looking at dual fuel rates as well, which hopefully should bring it down to the per unit rate, hopefully should come down a bit more even. Okay, so can I have a proposer? Councillor Stinchcombe, you proposing? Yes. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Mason? All those in favour, please show. That's fine, Colin, if you want. Okay, item 12, C for Charlie, Personnel Committee. It's held on the 11th of September. We've had the redacted minutes from that. Can I have a proposer at all? Councillor Liz Smith, aye. Seconder, Councillor Anna Stinchcombe. All those in favour, please show. Assume you've got no questions on it. Okay, lovely, thank you. And then finally, the Leisure and Community Committee Leisure and Community Committee meeting held on the 15th of September. Any comments? Any proposer? Proposing anyone? Councillor Liz Smith proposing? I think I just saw Councillor Joan Mason before David Smith. Yeah. All is in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Right, item 13, actions under delegated powers, Colin?
None have been taken.
Okay, item 14, Alpha, to authorise the following payment list totaling £81,726.57.
Proposed, Chair.
Councillor David Roach proposed, thank you. Seconded by anyone? Councillor Pat Hanlon. All those, and then unless anyone's got any comments, all those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. And item B, to receive estimates of performance against budget for financial year.
Yes, so as was in my report earlier, so we are 42% of the way through the year, and we've spent 17%, and we've received in 34% of annual income and expenditure. So as things currently stand, well, I mean, on just a purely financial basis, obviously we're performing just fine. There's clearly a significant subtext to the fact that that is the figures that we're facing, which is tells its own story.
Yeah, we'll hopefully get better detail when we next time. Is it the end of next month we start looking at budgets again? Is it end of October?
We will do, and I'll probably echo what Nick said earlier, that it's going to be an interesting exercise to try, and it's going to be like nailing jelly to the ceiling, knowing what it's going to be, what are we supposed to budget for.
Yeah. Okay. Right, unless there's any questions on that, let's move quickly on to item 15, to receive urgent correspondence. Colin?
There is none.
Okay. Great. So finally, date of next meeting is Tuesday, the 27th of October, which I'm sure will be on Zoom again. I don't know if got anything else. I'll declare the meeting closed at 20:32. Please wait for the recording to stop before